G'day guys, thanks for tuning into this special coach chat from Melbourne United. Sorry about a little bit of a delay with Phil was finishing up a workout, so we're just waiting for him to jump online, but we thought we'd get started and share some of our experiences with Phil prior to him jumping on board. Housekeeping as per usual, please keep it on mute. If you've got questions as you go along, please fire them through on the chat. We're more than happy to try and cover as much as we can. And basically, you'll just be hearing from Phil more or less today. Before we do get started, we do want to thank all our sponsors with Melbourne United: Dream Street Lending, Tyre Power, SodaStream, Trojan Tools, Buller, Rolled, Harcourts, Subaru, TAC, Moose Toys, Chemist Warehouse, Wiz, and the Sporting Globe. In this time, if you can help any of them out, please do, because they're the ones helping us keep producing this content and keeping a connection with all our coaches out there in Victoria. To start off with, just a little snapshot on Phil. Like, obviously, Phil is a former NBL player, both with the Melbourne Tigers and then with West Sydney Razorbacks. But more recently, he's made his name in the NBA as a skills development coach, but also an assistant coach currently with the LA Lakers. He's won NBA championships. He's worked with some of the best in the game. LeBron, Kawhi, Kobe. When you're working with people that you only need one name, you know you're working with some pretty good talent there. So it's going to be a great insight into Phil's world and what he thinks are keys to individual player development. And hopefully along the way, we'll be able to see, to have some interaction and see where this chat goes. Dino, I'll let you jump in, mate, and just talk about Phil's interactions with us over the last couple of seasons and his involvement.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we were fortunate enough to bring out Phil the last 2 years in our preseason, and even this last one, it kind of coincided with Mello, Trimble, and Sean Long coming out, and so to jump straight into our club to have one of the world's elite player development guys, be able to work with him every day. And then we asked Phil to certainly take a whole practice, whatever he wanted to put into that practice. And the last time he really came back with the delay set that Toronto were running, and talked about Marc Gasol's reads from basically a 5-out kind of system, and pretty simple, but also had great spacing and required high level intelligence from your 5-man. When we went to Toronto, after he'd come out and worked with us, and we went back in preseason, played against Toronto, we were kind of like, "Where's Phil?" And we saw him before the game working people out, but then he spent the first quarter and a half of the game, he was actually working out Kawhi. And then he came down at halftime and just showed that his absolute commitment to, if Kawhi wasn't playing, he was making sure he was getting a workout and getting as much load as those guys that were running around in the preseason. But, I'm not sure how old Phil is. I think he must be close to 53, 54, something like that. And he had some knee trouble when he was in the NBL, but the way he moves with the basketball, it just absolutely demands major respect for the things that he does on the floor, every day, with his body, being able to demonstrate, every skill that he teaches, he's able to demonstrate. So I hope you look forward. I hope you get great value out of him today. He has worked with the best, and I guess some of the sessions that we had with him were about our players just throwing questions at him. What was the difference between Kobe and LeBron and and Kyrie? How did they, what was their work ethic? How did they do things? And they're kind of the opportunities that we got to ask. So I look forward to you guys asking some great questions today and hearing give some great answers.
Beautiful summary there, Dino. And again, some of the best coaching moments, I think, come when you're just able to hear other coaches talk and then have your thought from that moment. And again, just punch those questions through, and we'll try and cover as much as we can. Kyle, has he got a thumbs up yet? Is Phil online yet, or I haven't seen his head pop up? There he is, right on cue. So as I said, I'll just give that brief snapshot again. Most recent with the LA Lakers, I think right now they'd be NBA champions. Wouldn't you feel if the season doesn't go any further, top of the table? But Phil, can you hear us, mate? Are you online? Trying to find his mic here.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, got you now, mate.
How's everybody doing?
We're good, mate. We've given you the best rendition of about you. We've gloated about your achievements and whatnot, but no, not really. We want you to tell us as much as you can. And basically the format, Phil, we've got some questions flying through. I'll try and fire them to you as we go, but we want to hear from you, mate. And first off, how are you going? You're well and keeping safe and sound over there?
No, everything is well. I first off want to say welcome to everyone on the Zoom. I guess these are extraordinary times that we're in. So to be able to get on Zoom with 100 plus people and talk about basketball is an amazing thing. But all is well with me. I'm doing well. We are obviously just like everybody else. We're completely shut down. The Lakers organization. We're not doing anything. We don't have any activities. Our players are quarantined. And we've been keeping tabs with our players on a daily basis between the medical staff and the conditioning staff, and also myself. So I've been sending players some workouts and some things that they can do at home. But all is well with me. Just like everybody else, just really trying to make sense of the times that we're living in right now and trying to enjoy spending some time with my family. For some of you that maybe don't know, my history, the last 9 years, ever since I became a coach in the NBA, I have had very little time to myself. During the season, we stay pretty busy. We're traveling a lot and we're playing a lot and we practice. And then in the off season, I stay pretty busy. I've been coming down to Australia, messing around with Big Vince and the team for the last few years. So my time, Phil Handy's time has been nil. So I'm just the opposite of everybody. I have taken this time and I'm enjoying every moment of having to do nothing. I haven't had that in 9 years as an NBA coach. So I'm enjoying the opportunity to sit on the couch. I've been watching Netflix. I haven't watched so much TV and I don't know how long. So I've enjoyed sitting on the couch watching Netflix. I'm enjoying sitting on the couch. I've been playing a little bit of Xbox. I don't think I picked up a video game in probably about 10 or 12 years. So I'm just enjoying some time to myself and allowing, this young, old body of mine to heal a little bit. They talk about LeBron being able to get some rest. Shit, it's good for me to get some rest and let my body kind of catch up because I'm on the floor, every day, and this season has been a little bit of it's been a great season so far, but I'm on the floor every day, at least 4 to 5 hours working with our guys. So this opportunity to sit down and get some rest, I am definitely taking full advantage of it. And really, just like I said, I've just been spending a lot of time, as we'll get to it, I've been spending a lot of time working on my app, which is really, to me, has become a full-scale basketball community where I'm able to kind of really pour all of my knowledge into one place, pour all of my drills into one place, and just share as much of the knowledge as I can. And we're constantly working on content every day. So this has really given me an opportunity to kind of step back from the NBA life and do some other things that are really close to my chest. And, the app has been something that's very close to my heart because I've been working on this for so many years to be able to, again, share my knowledge in one place with coaches and trainers and players and even parents, just on a global scale. So, every day I wake up in the morning and I'm spending 2 or 3 hours with my business partners, just putting our app together, thinking of different ways to stay creative with the content and thinking, just trying to have different ways of being able to put out content that people can do at home. So, that's been my focus, Jay, the last few weeks. And, it's just been one of those things where, we don't know, the NBA doesn't know, us as coaches, we don't know if the NBA will resume. And quite frankly, I'm of the mind, I just want regular life to resume. Forget about the NBA. I think everybody on this call can definitely identify with that. Obviously the NBA is just a source of basketball, but all of our lives have been interrupted. Just the normalcy of being able to go and have a glass of wine at a restaurant. Yeah, Vince, I know that's your thing right there. Having some wine at a nice restaurant, being able to share a meal with some friends, or so for me, I'm just ready for normalcy to kick back in where we can, have some contact with friends, and just hoping that this thing will end soon. But again, who knows?
Definitely here on that one, mate. Let's dive into it. Like, talk to us about your player development philosophies, and I guess you've touched on the app there, but how you've transformed your philosophies and been able to share that content and help as many athletes that you have.
Well, for all the coaches on here, I think I've always talked about my foundation in development is been two-part. I've always built my programs on footwork and balance. So I don't care who the athlete is, whether it be LeBron or whether it be a 12-year-old or 11-year-old student athlete. Everything I do has always been derived from incorporating good footwork, incorporating good balance. Because I think when you teach those two components, even with young kids, when you teach them how to understand how to use their feet, you teach them to understand how to play on balance, it's going to help them so much further. So that's why growing up, we would always encourage kids to play soccer. And we would always encourage kids, if possible, that would be a first sport for like my child. And my son is 6. I just got him into soccer last year. And before he even picks up a basketball, I want him to understand how important his feet are. So footwork is a real big application for me in everything I do every day. And so, throughout my career, I've always footwork and balance. And then you move into how do you build drills? How do you build workouts? Everything for me is about progression. Everything starts at the bottom. So I always try to use the analogy of Legos, with kids and trainers. It's really simple to understand. You see a lot of kids, they go on YouTube, they go on whatever platform they look at NBA games, and they see a guy like Kyrie, they see a guy like Steph Curry or James Harden, and they see the end product. They don't really understand what it took for these guys to get to that level and how much work. So I take that even back further and say, look, when you're building workouts, it's always good to start at the bottom and build. So when you take Legos, and hopefully everybody on this Zoom understands what Legos are, toys, Legos are little pieces that you build, and you build all these different things, but you always have to take the Legos out, spread them out, and figure out what's the first piece. And you start building that project from the bottom. And I treat training the same way. I start at the bottom and I build. So an example of that would be if I'm trying to incorporate, let's say, finishing. We start a workout. I would start at the beginning, at the end, and I would actually have the kids start with finishes very close to the basket. And if anybody's ever seen Kyrie Irving work out, he's always started his workouts 2 feet at the rim, and we would start with a finish. Then we would back up and incorporate one piece of ball handling, and then we would back up even further and incorporate a breakdown move. So we start with the finish. We'll incorporate a little bit of a static ball handling, and then we'll take it out to the three-point line and incorporate that into a breakdown move, into the ball handling, and then into the finish. So just, that's just a broad example, but progression is very important with your workouts. You can't teach somebody how to do, a double crossover if they don't understand how to do a single crossover. Or you can't teach someone to shoot threes if they don't understand how to shoot a mid-range or shoot a 5-footer. So that's really important to help kids. Instead of having kids start at the three-point line, have them do form shooting. Make them understand the importance of being able to shoot from 5 feet instead of trying to shoot 3-pointers. And then they start picking up bad habits. So the progression piece is really important. I don't care what drills you're doing. It's always good to progress, and you can always add, right? As you're progressing, you can add different pieces to start from basic to go to basic advanced and go to advanced. So that model has been the cornerstone of me being a successful trainer, me being a successful coach in the NBA. I've always progressed in everything I do. And again, it's the same with the NBA guys. We don't just jump on the court and start shooting threes. I treat them the same way. So my training model has been one that I've always tried to be able to take it from, again, 11-year-old to an NBA player, and it's still the same. It does not change. And that's really important, you know, in teaching. You should be able to teach the same. Yeah, Bron needs something different than 11-year-old needs, but again, the foundation of the training is the same. That part doesn't change for me ever. So I've been able to take that over the years and just build this into, you know, my training program. And on the app, you know, Jay and everybody on here, the app is really, it's a simple user face that we created. It's really easy to use, but the training is very detailed. You know, everything that we've done, we've taken, you know, ball handling, we've taken shooting, we've taken footwork, taken post-ups, we've taken pick and roll, passing, two-man game. We've added a defensive section where we're now starting to teach defense on the app because no one ever works on defense in their individual workouts. So we're adding that piece. But inside of the app, in every category is a full library. So if you open up the app and you go into the ball handling section, you open up the ball handling section and there is goo gobs of drills inside the ball handling section, going from basic to intermediate to advanced. Inside that library, there's tons of stuff. And again, by the time we finish today on this call, we'll have a link set up for everybody on here that wants access to the app to be able to use it through Melbourne United. You know, we've set up a partnership and we'll have a direct link for all the Melbourne United subscribers to go and toy around with the app and look at it. And I have on the app now, and there's probably about 9 to 12 hours worth of content on the app. And I say hours because what we've done with each of the drills, we've micromanaged it. So every drill on there, a clip of maybe 15 or 20 seconds in each category. So again, you can go into the ball handling, say, hey, I want to work on learning how to go in between the legs. Click on that part. It teaches you some pickups. You know, my terminology teaches my terminology, and it's all demonstrated. Everything is demonstration. Everything is live on there. There's all visual. So you understand what you're looking at and you understand the teaching points of how I put the program together over the years. But it's complete. And so what we do every 30 days, we upload 30 new videos every 30 days. So there's always fresh content. It's never the same stuff. So we try to give athletes 30 days to work on a plethora of things, right? And then the next 30 days, here comes a new onslaught of drills. And, you know, on the app, there's Steve Nash, there's Harrison Barnes. I have a WNBA player who's coming on board, Jewel Lloyd, who's a really good WNBA player. So we can have the women's audience there. I have a 11-year-old phenom who's on the app, who's very talented, female young lady who's really good. I have a couple of other high school kids on the app. So it's a wide range. You know, just as I've talked about my training, there's a wide range of athletes on the app, and it's not for NBA players. You know, that's what people think. It's for coaches, it's for trainers, it's for parents, and it's for athletes, period, not just NBA athletes. So, you know, the app is it's been a passion project for me for many years. And it was one of those things where it actually took a couple business partners of mine to beg me for months to do it, because I was a guy, I never filmed workouts. I was a guy, you know, this technology now and what we're doing on this Zoom call and all the technology that's taking place, I'm so far removed from it. I was just a guy that got in the gym and I worked. You know, I believe in just putting my work in. I never really filmed my workouts. So it took a betterment of a year for me to even sit down and entertain the thought of the app. But once they kind of, you know, share with me, Phil, look, this could be really good for sharing your knowledge. with the basketball community on a global scale. Because, I mean, I've had gobs of emails and DMs and messages about, hey, coach, can you send me a workout? Can you send me this? You know, and I never really had any of that stuff on video. So to be able to have this app come to life and be able to share basketball from my brain to anyone that's interested in it, it's been a great project for me. And so what is the app for? I just want all of you guys to understand, man, I care about the game of basketball on a very high level. You know, basketball has been the ultimate vehicle for me to be able to, you know, have a lot of different successes in my life. So I see a lot of training out there in the world, and some of it is garbage. You know, so I'll put that out there right now. I'm not a fan of tricks. I'm not a fan of gimmicks. I'm not a fan of all these different trainers that are trying to find ways to reinvent the game of basketball. That's not what we're doing here. Basketball has been around forever, and we're not trying to change the game. We just want to be able to help people understand how to teach the game. You know, that's my whole thought process. How can we leave the game of basketball in a healthy place? That's really important, because there's too many people out there that have videos that are on YouTube that are teaching kids, and they're teaching all the wrong stuff, right? And I'm never anyone that talks about trainers, because I think there's 500 different ways to teach the game, as long as you're teaching it right. I always say that. My way is not the only way, or is it the right way? I've had success with my way, so I always try to share what's made me successful in training athletes of all ages. And it's really important to understand that, you know, the wide range of everybody on this call, I mean, I'm pretty sure we have some youth coaches, maybe some pro coaches, you know, high school level coaches, but there's a wide range of coaches on this call. And I think any of you that are interested in development or training with athletes, whether it be your own kids, it's important to understand. I've always said it to people, youth coaches are the most important coaches on the planet of the earth. I've said that many times, and I believe that. Youth coaches are the most important coaches on the face of the earth. More important than us, more important than NBA coaches. And here's why. Youth coaches have the first impression on young athletes, right? Young athletes, you look at coaches as an authority figure, as somebody you look up to, somebody that you respect. And as a youth coach, you have the ability to, one, empower a young athlete and instill some confidence in them, or you have the ability to take their confidence and take their self-esteem and not make them want to do anything. And that piece right there is so important to me. Youth coaches understanding, one, how to talk to kids, how to relate to kids, and how to help them understand what they're doing in the game of basketball. And the message, you know, the message is really important. So I'm always of the mindset of trying to help coaches understand how to deliberate, how to talk, how to communicate. Yes, we have to be firm. You know, we have to instill instruction. We have to discipline. But I think all of that can be done in a positive nature as well. And at times, yeah, there may be times when you need to jump down your athlete's throat, right? Kids are not playing hard. They're not doing the right thing. Boom. As a coach, let's lay down the law. But it doesn't have to be in a space where kids walk away feeling like, as an adult, we attack them personally, right? That's really important to understand. Even though we're coaching and we're giving instruction and we're holding kids to a higher standard, it has to be done from a place of positivity, while at the same time being firm, being stern, and they understand that you mean business. But I've had a lot of bad coaches in my time growing up, and luckily for me, I also had my brothers that kept me insulated. So there were days where I wanted to quit playing the game of basketball because of some dealings that I had with coaches. And again, I'm not a soft kid. I grew up in a very, very old school home, you know, household where my father was just a guy that worked hard. He worked his ass off. There was no excuses. So, you know, I was pretty mentally tough as a kid, but I had a lot of coaches that would just attack me personally, or they would, you know, try to show favoritism to other kids, you know, and that's going to move into my next area of the conversation. Again, as youth coaches, the responsibility goes a long way. If any of you as coaches are coaching your children This is an important topic. If you are coaching your own kids on your youth team, it's important that you understand there should be no favoritism, okay, one way or the other. You shouldn't overcoach your kid and you shouldn't undercoach them. You should not give them more privilege than the other kids on your team, all right? That's important. If you're going to be a coach and you're going to coach your own children, then you have to understand when you become a coach and you're coaching your games, you're no longer dad, you're no longer mom, you are coach. And your responsibility is to coach your team equally and fairly. And every kid on the team should be treated the same. And I'm talking from experience. You know, it's easy for me to treat LeBron different than I treat maybe Quinn Cook, who's on our roster. I can't do that. I treat LeBron the same. I treat Quinn Cook the same. So when I coach, they are coached the same way. And it's really important for parents to understand when you're coaching your own kids that you coach everybody the same way. So where kids are not felt like, man, you know, coaches they just want their son or their daughter to take all the shots, and you know, they don't play no defense, and you know, the parent doesn't say anything to the kid. Those type of situations are bad for the game of basketball. So again, I encourage you coaches out there, male, female, if you're coaching your kids, take the responsibility to coach fairly. That's really important.
Your passion there, Phil, comes out in all your words, and it's exciting, the stuff that you've developed. We've got a number of good questions rolling through here. I might just hit them and see what your thoughts are. First one from Al McGautry, mate. How much input from the athletes do you take into your workouts, whatever the level you're working with?
You said how much
Yeah.
of the athletes?
How much input are you taking from them?
Oh, man, big time. Listen, every time I step on the floor, I learn. I'm always learning. I'm constantly learning, even at this stage of my career. So I don't, again, you know, it may sound funny, but I don't care if I'm working with an 11-year-old or if I'm working with, you know, Anthony Davis. When I step on the floor, I'm learning. The athletes are teaching me stuff because as I'm teaching, every athlete moves a little different. Their body mechanics are different. So I'm watching their movements, and you know, one kid may move one way, another kid moves another. So I'm able to look at that and say, hey, okay, I have to teach this a little different. These kids don't move the same. I could teach the same drill, but you know, I might have to teach it a little different based on how the kids move or how the athletes move. So with the guys now in the NBA, you know, I engage these guys quite a bit in the sense of I'm always asking them, hey, what do you want to get better at? And there's nothing wrong with that as a coach to ask athletes, what do you want to improve on? I think it's okay for us to understand. You might look at a kid and say, hey, they need help with their ball handling or they need to work on their shot. As a coach, you process that and you put it in, but you can also ask the athletes, what do you want to get better at? Because I feel like when I ask that question, it immediately involves them in their own development, right? So I take off the shield of, hey man, coach is going to make me do these drills. No, I want to hear from you as an athlete. Where do you want to get better? What are some areas you want to improve on? And when I get that information, we can put that into the workout. And it also, again, it involves them. You know, it's really important to involve these athletes in their workouts and help them understand that they're part of their own development. So I take a lot. There's a lot of engagement with athletes, understanding, again, where do you want to get better? Me as a coach, I see this area is where you should get better, but we want the athletes to be involved with their own development. I'm not saying that allows them to run the workout, but it involves them. Now, I want athletes of all levels. I want them to be involved in their development. That's crucial, because if they're not involved in their development, then we as coaches are what? We're yelling. You know, we're trying to get people to do things that they really don't want to do. So if they're going to be on the basketball court, I want them to be involved in the process of getting better.
Beautiful. Keep moving on here, mate. So a question here, how many hours a week do you believe athletes should be training to try and get to that elite level? Have you got an opinion on that one?
Yeah, you know, I think, Jay, that's a great question for all the coaches on here. I'm a guy of quality over quantity, right? I would prefer to have quality over quantity. So what does that mean? Look, I always think at this level, our guys now in the off season, you know, there's two different ways to break down development. There's in-season development, and then there's off-season development. In the off season, I'm going to use LeBron. You know, we'll use him at the highest end, and we can work backwards from there. When I step on the floor with LeBron in the offseason, we will work at max on any given day. We'll be on the court maybe 90 minutes, max. That is the max. And that's 90 minutes, including, you know, free throws, water breaks, all of those type of things. 90 minutes max. Most days, it might be 75 minutes. And as a coach and a trainer, I want to be able to step on the floor, and in 75 minutes, me and LeBron can get through many different things in a workout. But the whole premise of it is I want quality. So instead of me saying, hey, Brian, I want you to shoot 10 shots, and he shoots 10 shots at a slow pace, and he shoots 10 shots with bad footwork, no detailed mechanics, I'll say to Brian, listen, I want to shoot 4 shots on this particular drill, and I want game speed. So there goes the quality of the rep, right? Instead of it being quantity. So I want the quality to be high. I want the intensity to be high. And in order to do that, sometimes you got to shorten it. So if sometimes you're working with kids and you might want them to make 6 layups, right? We'll just use a basic, very basic. You might want them to make 6 layups, but after the 3rd layup or whatever, they get tired. Now the quality of what they're doing goes down. So sometimes, again, this goes back to progression. If I know an athlete's not in great shape, I might start with 2, then I build to 4, then I build to 6, then I build to 8. You know, so that part comes in where I'm using quality, and I'm able to put that in with, again, progression. So Jay, look, every athlete's different. You know, I always talk to coaches and parents and trainers about overworking. Overworking is just as bad as not working, right? So you can overwork the body. And this is something that we talk with our athletes about on a daily basis, being smart with your work. So for kids, you know, youth level, I mean, Jay, what's roundabout of all the coaches that we have on here? Are most of the coaches youth coaches? What are we dealing with?
We've had everything, mate. We've had everything. There's 136 online right now, so you've got everything under the sun.
Okay. Well, you know, let's start with the youth. I think it's good for kids like in the early stages. Right now, if they're not in season and kids want to work out, 1 hour a day, right? And I might even say just 5 days a week, maybe even 4 days a week. It's very important for kids, and in that 1 hour on the court, okay, there's other things that they could be doing. They can learn how to do weight training. They could do, you know, speed and agility, all these other things. But on the court, if you're working with kids individually, your own son, whatever, in a group, I think 1 hour for 5 days a week for kids is plenty, right? And then it just really depends on, as a coach, what are we getting done in that 1 hour? What am I teaching the kids? So you can take that on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday schedule. Monday might be ball handling. Tuesday might be shooting. Wednesday might be conditioning, where you're doing a lot more conditioning. Thursday might be footwork. And then Friday, you may come back and combine all of those things and work on all of them together. Now, look, that's just one example. You can build your workouts in any kind of way that you want. There's no wrong way, okay? But I just gave you like a five-day plan that you could put together and be creative with it. But I think kids sometimes think, you know, I have to be in the gym for 2 hours. I have to be in the gym for 3 hours. What are you doing in the gym for 3 hours? NBA basketball games last about 2.5 hours. Melbourne United games might last 2 hours, and that's with breaks, and that's full competition. So for a kid to be in the gym for 2 hours, what are they doing? Now, look, if they're in there with their friends goofing off, okay, that's cool. But we're talking about if you're in the gym and you say, man, I was on the court for 2 hours today. Well, I would challenge any trainer and any player. Well, I want to see what you did for 2 hours, because what you did in 2 hours, I'll condense that down in about 45 minutes. And I tell you what, you'll be tired, you'll be exhausted, but you'll feel like you got some quality work in 45 minutes versus being in the gym for 2 hours goofing off. You know, so there's some finite things that I try to do. Again, efficiency is key. You know, I try to be as efficient as I can as a coach. And that has come from me just really studying my craft and understanding what I want to get accomplished when I step on the floor. So, Jay, that question, man, is, I hope I was able to give some people some insight on just, how long you should train athletes individually, and even with group sessions. If you're in a group session, your group sessions, 90 minutes is plenty. If you have a large group and you're really trying to do some skills things, you have 6 or 7 kids, in a group session, 90 minutes is plenty of time to help kids get better. And I would encourage everybody to understand that it's not about how long you're on the court. It's about the quality of the work that you put in. So, right now in season, or when we were in season, our guys would work out individual workouts on a daily basis, 20 minutes. Everybody gets a 20-minute time slot before practice starts. And every day that we practice, they have a 20-minute individual workout. And I'm always challenging our coaches, even at this level. Look, fellas, you guys have to understand what it means to be able to facilitate 20-minute workouts. So that means on Monday, we might come in and work on ball handling and finishing. And at the end of that 20-minute workout, we might make 50 made threes. That's 20 minutes. Tuesday, we might come back and say, okay, let's work on our footwork and our perimeter jump shots. At the end of that 20 minutes, you're finished with 50 made threes. Or, that's just an example of how our individual workouts go during the season. But they have to be sharp, they have to be quick, and they have to be organized. And the quality has to be there so these guys can stay sharp.
Beautiful. Just one relevant to kind of now, with isolation, how do you get around the challenge of a 1v0 where the ball handling and shooting skills are there, but the physical interaction isn't? Have you got any suggestions for the times we're in now, mate?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's where the app has been really successful for me, is that I've been able to again build a big community through this app right now. So even with our players, I put together 2 10-minute at-home ball handling workouts. So not everybody has a basketball court. No, not everybody has access to a basketball court. So what are the things that you can do at home? So I have 2 10-minute workouts that are specific. One of them is more static and the other one is a little bit more moving. And really all the guys need is, look, you got 10 to 15 feet of space. You can do it in your living room. You can do it in your backyard, your driveway. You can do it anywhere where you can grab a basketball and work. So this is what we put together. And I've sent this to our players, and I require, we've asked them, we've asked those guys to do it every day during the week, 10 minutes. Spend 10 minutes on your ball handling. And Jay, look, I'll make these workouts available to everybody on here as well. I'll send them to you guys, and you guys can share it with the group. But the 10-minute workouts are intense. So at that 10 minutes, you should have a lather. You should be sweating. Feel like you got a good workout in. I might only last, me and Vince and Dino, we might only last maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, and then it's over. But if you can, pull off 10 minutes of ball handling work, this is what we ask our guys to do now. And for those guys that have a gym, some of these guys have gyms in their homes. They have their own gyms. They have a hoop. I'll send them other workouts, and again, it's really all dependent on what people have access to. And so every day, man, I'm always encouraging people, there is something that you can do. There is something that you can do in this time. I don't care. Again, whether you have a basketball court or not, you can work on your footwork. You can work on your ball handling. You can work on some pivots. There's all kind of dynamic pieces of the game that people can work on. You can work on defensive slides. That's a great time to have people work on defense. No hoop, no basketball. Hey, well, let's get in some defensive work. So I think there's always things that you can find to work on. And I use the term no excuses. Like, we all have something that we can do every day. So I've been putting together little things for our guys to do on a daily basis, and to give them something to keep fresh, and maybe all of our guys, will come back out of this thing with better handles.
Beautiful. I'll combine a couple questions here. They're both about kind of mindset. So how do you deal with a player whose mindset holds them back from using their skill set? And this may have been through previous coaching sort of squashing them down. And then another comment here, not everyone has the Mamba mentality. Have you ever had issues with players' commitment and motivation? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, man, I think there's even at the NBA level, there are some guys that just they don't know how to work, or they don't want to work as hard as the others. And I think what I've always done on the professional level, and then we'll pull it back, is I challenge these guys to be pros every day, right? So when you get to this level, you're being paid. You're getting paid a lot of money by this organization to put this jersey on and play basketball. So what does that mean? You have to show up and do your job every day. And it's simple language. There's no, I'm not trying to trick anybody. I'm just tapping into these dudes individually to challenge them one-on-one to be a good pro. And so what does that mean? We got to show up on time every day. You need to be here and work every day. And I've been one of those guys that have always tried to build relationships with athletes on the floor, right? I've always tried to build my relationships with athletes on the floor and be fully engaged. So again, there's a wide array of coaches on this Zoom call. I'm always encouraging coaches. I don't care what our age. If we are going to coach and we're going to develop, we need to be active. Okay, so we can't be coaches and stand on the side and point and direct. When it comes to drills, the more you're engaged, the more you're inactive with your athletes, the more you're going to get out of them, right? So the energy that we bring is the energy they're going to give us back. So as a coach, if I come into a workout and I'm very low energy, I'm very slow, I'm very lethargic, I'm going to get the same thing back from the athlete. So the energy that we put off is the energy that they're going to bounce right back to us. So that's really important. Coaches, with teaching, not everybody on here can do everything, but if you cannot demonstrate what you're trying to teach, don't teach it. Simple rule. If you cannot demonstrate what you're trying to teach, then don't teach it. Visual learners. Okay, so Jay, this all goes into how you plug into athletes. I've always been a demonstrator. Again, I'm getting older, so my demonstrations are slowing down a little bit, but even still, I'm still going to try to demonstrate what I want to teach to athletes because it's very important because they are visual learners. And I'm not saying that everybody has to know how to do crossovers and do all this crazy stuff, but in slow time, if you want an athlete to do it, you should be able to show them some resemblance of what it should look like. That's our responsibility as coaches if we're going to coach the game and teach, right? Challenging athletes to be at their best in terms of effort. That's what we're talking about. No athlete's perfect. You're gonna miss shots, but challenging athletes to be at their best with effort. That's what we have to demand from the gate. And so when you're dealing with youth, again, this goes into how we talk to the youth athletes and helping them understand, look, this is really, to me, it's bigger than basketball, but we're teaching young kids how to have some work ethic, how to build some character in their life. I've always felt like basketball translate into other areas of my life and how hard I'm going to work. So I'm always encouraging young athletes, listen, working hard doesn't always mean that it has to be no fun. If we step on the floor, we can have some fun while we're working hard. Because at the end of the day, as young kids, when they see something and the light goes on, then that's when their confidence goes through the roof. So as coaches, I don't care, we're teaching them just how to shoot a layup. Once they understand it and they pick it up and they do it over and over again, their confidence goes through the roof. So I think the thing that we have to understand is, some athletes are going to be more difficult to deal with than others, but we always have to coach. We have to coach no matter what. Okay, so if you're dealing with a kid who's hard to coach or doesn't want to listen, if they're on your team, you have to coach them. Okay, don't give that kid a pass and say, man, I'm not going to coach this kid. I don't want to deal with him. If they're on your team, you have to coach them. All right, like it or not, we're not here to actually build friendships. That's not the original goal. We're here to help these people become better athletes. And through that, the friendships will be developed. The relationships will be developed. And people, I'm telling all of you, I have never built a relationship with any player by going to them and trying to befriend them. I'm not trying to be their friend. I want them to be better players. And that's where the relationships have always been built. That's where the respect has always been given, because I only care about them being a better basketball player when they're with me. And so when that is understood, again, it goes back down to the youth level. As a coach, if you're helping these kids and you're helping the pro athletes that you work with, first and foremost, I want you to become a better basketball player. I think that removes a lot of other stuff. So coaches, be head on. You know, don't avoid conflict sometimes. If your players are bringing the conflict, then we as a coach, we have to step in there and we have to solve the conflict. And again, a lot of that just might be by just having a simple conversation, pulling a player away from the group, you know, finding out. Sometimes kids that are and again, I'm using the kids a lot because sometimes they're the most difficult to deal with. You know, sometimes kids might be having problems at home. You know, there may be other issues that don't have anything to do with basketball. So we as adults have to be able to read that, see it, and understand that sometimes the issues are not just about basketball. They may be something else. So we have to find a way to connect with the athletes that we coach.
Phil, just here, mate, your philosophy on incorporating defense into individual workouts. And then on the back of that, something in your coaching career that you've changed, whether that's your mindset or philosophy or whatever that you've kind of evolved with over your time.
Incorporating defense, I do it through ball handling. So if any of you have ever seen any of the ball handling drills that I do, I'm in a defensive stance. And so that's the time where I might play some Jedi mind tricks on kids and athletes, right? They're in a defensive stance with a basketball in their hands, and they don't look at it that way only because they have the basketball in their hand. But I teach a lot of defense through ball handling because to me, the way I teach it, it's a wide base, you're in a low stance. It's the same as being in a defensive stance. You just have it with a basketball in your hands. So that is one way that I've learned how to incorporate defensive movements into individual workouts through ball handling. And then there's other ways that you can do it to where it's not so have to work on defense. Teach your kids how to translate from defense to offense. So, you know, I have a lot of shooting drills where I may have kids slide from lane line to lane line, and then they end up, you know, getting into some footwork that leads into a jump shot, or it leads into attacking the basket. So you can incorporate defense into your workouts individually a lot of different ways without it seeming like I'm just working on defense. You know, the footwork and the balance part is really crucial. So, you know, understanding that, you know, some of these things are on the app. You know, a lot of these questions you got to have, a lot of these drills are right there on the app on how I translate defense into offense in individual workouts. And again, using the ball handling piece to trick kids and athletes to be in a defensive stance, you know, because that's basically the stance that I'm teaching when we go into the ball handling. And then for me, what have I changed in my coaching career? I think I've grown more patience. I'm not really a patient guy. And as I'm giving you coaches advice, again, I'm giving you advice based on my own experiences. I'm a little bit of a hothead, very much so. And I'm very competitive. So with early on in the NBA as a coach, I didn't really understand, you know, we play 82 games, so we would lose games and the players would be like, okay, we have another game tomorrow, but I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm just thinking about the game that we just lost. And I want to cuss everybody out in the locker room. But not understanding that 82 games is a lot of games. You can't win them all. You know, you want to play hard every night, but I had to learn how to, one, pull back a little bit, have some patience, and understand that when the game is over, I need to kind of decompress. Now, that's been a hard thing for me, my wife, my family. I bring all of that stuff home. And then it's just, you know, that's a Debbie Downer as a coach. You know, we lose a game. I come home and everybody's miserable because I'm just in a funk. So I had to really change that part about my personality and get to a better place where when the game is over, I leave it in the locker room. And if it takes me 20 minutes, I stay in the locker room until I'm decompressed. So when I leave that locker room, I'm not taking it out on the people that are waiting for me. So I've had to really work on that part and be patient with understanding some players take longer than others to pick up certain things. So that's where the patience for me as a coach has been a turn for me, because again, I wasn't very patient early on in my early days as an NBA coach.
It comes with getting wise, doesn't it? Next one here, mates. Thoughts on strengthening the skills that fit the player's current role versus expanding their game. And I guess so the thoughts on working to strengthen the skills that fit a player's current role versus expanding their game. And I guess if you can angle that at a junior level, I think that's more of a focus from a junior coach.
No, I think that's an all level question, because I think once you start getting old enough and you're incorporating systems with your kids and you're with your athletes long enough, the development piece is twofold. You have to work on your individual game, but in season, this is where people need to understand, like, in season development is different than off season development. Off season development, you can, take the handcuffs off and you can work on everything. Let's get better at a whole plethora of things, right? Because you have the time to do it, in off season. When you're in season, that is more of a, let's stay fine tuned, let's maintenance, and then understanding, okay, if you're at the pro level, junior level, what is the system you're playing in? Individually, what system does my coach run? Okay, and then take that to the next level and say, where do I get my shots from inside this system? And then you can begin, Jay, to build, and this is what we do. We build individual workouts for our players during the season that evolve around the offense and where they're getting their shots from. They're still working on their individual skills, but they're working on their individual skills within the confines of what our offensive system is. Does that make sense? It's one of those things where you have to be able to combine working on some individual things that fit into how you're going to play in this offensive system. So if you have a kid that's in season, I'm not even saying that you don't try to work on your handles or you don't work on things that you're not good at, but you have to understand that during the season, you may not have the wide range to work on 10 different things. You may only be able to work on 2 or 3 different things as you're trying to make sure you fit into the system and you're doing the things that your coach wants you to do to be able to play at a high level.
Beautiful. In your individual workouts, how much is there and how do you go about incorporating decision-making and real-time decisions if it's a 1-on-0 workout?
Yeah, I think you can do that. Sometimes you can do that with coaches. I'm very active in workouts. So if I want kids to include some passing in the drills, I'll place myself on various spots on the floor. Look, for me, I use a lot of cones. When I train, I like to use cones. I use pylons because I think it helps kids. One, it helps them, and athletes, it helps them with their footwork and understanding that when you play the game of basketball, there's 5 defenders on the floor, right? So when you're doing individual workouts, sometimes you don't have cones. There's nothing on the court. They don't have the visual to understand that I have to be able to avoid objects. So the cones, to me, they represent defenders. So I can put cones in various places to help kids understand change of direction, help them understand change of pace, help them understand that, look, you have to learn how to maneuver around these objects just like you would defensive players. So using cones gives me the ability to put myself in different places and incorporate passing. One-on-one workouts, you can teach kids how to have tempo and pace by teaching them to play pick and roll. I think pick and roll drills are really good. Even at a young age, you can teach kids how to play the pick and roll and what the pick and roll is used for. And that helps them have a better sense of pace, timing, okay? Helps them understand where can I make passes. All of these things are really important. So individual workouts can be, again, be creative. You know, you really have to be creative as a coach. If you have a kid and you want to teach them how to make, you know, corner passes, you know, opposite of where you are, you know, if your kid's on the right wing and you're a coach, place yourself on the left baseline. And you could do a simple drill, basically have your kid spin the basketball, catch and rip to the baseline, drive baseline, and now you want them to work on a one-hand pass with their right hand, and they have to get that pass to you to the corner. These are simple things that you can do. You know, that's just one simple drill, but you can be creative with that and incorporate passing into workouts. And it doesn't just have to finish at the pass, right? You're teaching kids how to move without the basketball. So you may have your player drive to the lane, make a kick out pass to you, and have them continue to another spot on the floor in the corner, and the ball comes back to them and they can make a move to the rim. You can incorporate all type of different things to where they understand, boom, let me understand how to penetrate. Let me understand how to kick out. After my kick out, let me understand how to keep moving and find another open spot on the floor. The game just keeps going. It keeps flowing. So there's a lot of creativity that you can have as a coach. There's no wrong. I'm always encouraging coaches. There's no wrong. The only thing that's wrong is if we're teaching wrong. Okay, we're teaching bad habits. We're teaching things that are not right for the game. You can unlock your minds and be very creative with your training. I encourage the coaches to be really creative. You know, everything doesn't have to be scripted all the time. You can be really creative with your training with your athletes.
Well, there's a really good question here, mate. As a player, how do you learn to coach yourself? Have you got, you've obviously worked with some of the best around, like are there some tells in those athletes that are indicative of those that can coach themselves better than others?
Well, I think athletes have to understand who they are. Now, if we're talking about at the pro level, we deal with a lot of stuff that you guys deal with. And again, I'm talking, if you're coaching at the youth league, you guys probably think you're dealing with all these things that we don't deal with at the NBA. Not true. These guys at the NBA are like kids. They very much are. So we deal with a lot of the same issues. And I think if athletes don't know who they are as a player, right, then it's going to be hard for them to coach themselves. So what do I mean by that? If you have a kid who's, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, and the kid maybe not a great shooter, but he thinks in his mind that he's a great shooter. So he wants to jack up threes the whole game. Now, I'm using this as an example. It's hard for that kid to coach. It's hard for that kid to coach himself because he's not realistic with what his skill set is at that age. We deal with that with guys in the NBA. They think they're a certain type of player, and they're not. You know, Dino and you guys and Jay, I know you guys deal with this. You get different players, and they think they think they should be scoring 20 points a game, but that's not who they are. Use that just as an example. So when we have guys like that, it's hard for them to coach themselves. So we're always encouraging athletes to, one, understand what you are as a player and understand where your skill set is. Even as young players, you know, your object is to work and get better, right? You have to work to get better. So if kids and athletes at all levels are not realistic with what their skill set is, then it's going to be hard for them to coach themselves. And then the other thing we talk about is how hard are you playing? Are you playing hard? Now, I think that's something a lot of people say playing hard is a skill. I disagree. That's not a skill. Playing hard is just something that's inside of you. It's inside of you where you say, I'm gonna outwork the person that I'm standing next to, right? That's not a skill. That's determination to outwork and work hard, whether you're with someone or whether you're by yourself. Coaching kids on playing hard. You know, when I ran my AAU program, you know, I coached kids from age 12 on up to 17. I didn't coach them on how many shots they made or how many points they made. Every game that I coached them on how hard they played. To me, that determined the level of success. And so when I taught the kids that, listen, here's how you can understand if you're playing well. How hard are you playing? Are you playing hard? Because I believe when you play hard, you're going to make up for a lot of mistakes, right? If you're not playing hard and you're making mistakes, that's a double negative. So I always coach kids on how hard are you playing. And then that's the early sign for them to understand, man, coach, I'm not playing hard enough. They know. So when you teach them in that regard, they can start to coach themselves in that manner. And I think that's a great place to start in coaching kids and coaching athletes on effort.
Beautiful. This probably ties in a little bit to it, like mental strengthening exercises or skills. Is there anything that you've used and had success with in just the mental side of the game, as far as whether that be resilience or whether that actually be just the IQ side of things? Can you go into some of that?
Yeah, I think the mental part comes into work, Jay. I've always, no matter what level, the mental work comes in when the kids put in the work, when the athletes put in the work. So again, I'm gonna use the most basic skill. If a player is working on left-hand layups and they spend 15 minutes on that left-hand layup and they start to get it down, their mental capacity is gonna do what? It's gonna go up. They're gonna gain a lot of confidence in the work that they just put in with that left hand in their layups. Using a very simple analogy, the work that we do on the floor builds mental strength. A lot of people don't understand that. And I'm not talking about, not talking about practice necessarily, but when you have an opportunity to put in your individual work and you're working on your game and you're sharpening your tools, you walk away from that with a little bit more confidence. Every day you get better, right? And understanding, man, I got better with my ball handling today, or I got better with that jump shot today. I got better with my right hand layup, whatever it is. The more work that they put in, the more confidence that they gain from it. And again, it's not saying that they're always going to be perfect in their work, but I believe this has been my experience, and this is how I've helped athletes become strong mentally. It's all through the work. It's the work that we put in on a daily basis on the drills, because then man, I put the work in. I'm familiar with this. I've done this. I did this all week last week. I did 15, I did 20 minutes worth of left-hand layup. So you're familiar with it, you're comfortable with it, and I think you're prepared. So a lot of the mental stuff comes from, are you prepared? I think a lot of people that are not as mentally strong are the ones that don't work as much. They're not prepared. How can you be prepared mentally and physically for something that you haven't practiced? So I've always believed that when you put the work in and you're actually working on your craft, you gain confidence, you become stronger mentally, you feel prepared. All of that stuff just kind of lines up, and it helps you when you get to the games. Again, you say, man, I did this workout last week. I'm ready. I did these shooting drills last week. I'm ready. When they put that time in, they build the mental capacity.
Beautiful. Just a couple more here, mate. In relation to youth level hoops, the relevance of teaching a pull-up 15-foot jumper versus teaching runners. Where are you seeing the game going? The importance of both, one versus the other. Where do you sit with that?
Man, Jay, this falls into, I started my company in 1999. It was called 94 Feet a Game. And the whole premise behind that company was to, once you step inside the lines, there shouldn't be anything that you can't do as a player. The whole game. You should really work on trying to be as complete a player as possible. So floaters, runners, offhand finishes, all of it, mid-range pull-ups, threes. I think it's all very important to the game, because there is no way that anyone can tell me that they know for sure that a player is going to get a certain type of shot during the game every game. It just doesn't work that way. The game of basketball is so fast moving, you can't script everything. So teaching floaters, do it. Teaching runners, do it. Teaching pull-ups, do it. The whole key is teach it and work on it, right? So we always encourage our athletes, if you want to do something, put the time in on it and work on it. I heard a quote from Patrick Ewing. A lot of you know who Patrick Ewing is. He's coaching at Georgetown University. He was chewing one of his players out during a timeout for shooting a step back. And his line to his player was, I've never seen you work on that shit in practice, so why are you doing it here? Simple, right? And his point was, if you work on it, I'll let you shoot it. So that goes back to your question, Jay. Look, you want to shoot floaters, work on them. Runners, work on them. Pull-ups, work on them. Whatever you work on, you'll have better success with it.
Beautiful. I'll paraphrase a couple questions here, just in and around recovery and I guess what your recommendations are through what an athlete can do from an individual sense to make sure that they can come in and peak perform, but also periodization through your NBA seasons. How much of an emphasis is there on recovery and how that impacts your athletes?
Yeah, I think athletes, young and old, even for young athletes, learning how to stretch is crucial. Like I think a lot of kids think they're just young, they can just whatever, take their backpack off and play a 40-minute game. I think kids need to learn how to activate. We call it activating, which is just a fancy word for stretching and getting loose and getting warm. I think that's really crucial to begin. Um, after games, recovery. I think it's sometimes it's good too. A lot of people don't understand how important ice is to us. Ice is like gold for NBA athletes. Game is over, your joints are inflamed. You've been running, you've been pounding. That's why you might see guys on the bench, they got ice on their shoulders, ice on their knees, guys have ice on their back. That is one of the simplest things that you can do to help your joints recover after a game. I don't care what level athletes. Again, kids are, they bounce back a lot quicker, but learning how to recover, stretch before, stretch after, really crucial for young athletes, because again, the sooner you learn how to do it, the further you're going to go in your career, or just the further you're going to move yourself along and just taking care of your body. So recovery is really important at all levels. And I think there's all kind of different things that people can do to recover. You got to stay hydrated. Hydration is important. Water is really important. I mean, we make our guys drink a ton of water, instead of Gatorade or all the other drinks that they try to provide for us. Very, very simple things, but I think the most basic stuff is stretching before, activating before, stretching after, to make sure that your body gets to cool down. It's really important.
Beautiful. One probably more recent sort of question for you, Phil. Moving from the back of the bench to the front of the bench with the Lakers, where's your coach's eye gone now? Like, have you found that you're seeing the game in a different way? What are your thoughts in and around that one?
Well, I think for me, it's just a position move. In Cleveland, in Toronto, I did a lot of front of the bench. I coached the same way, even though I was behind the bench. My coaching responsibilities were the same. I mean, in Cleveland, I helped us prepare for the playoffs. I did scouts. I ran practices. Toronto was the same. I prepared scouts. I helped us in the playoffs. So I had full coaching responsibilities behind the bench. And for me, the move to the Lakers was just a position seat change. That's it. My responsibilities have not changed. I'm still doing the same things that I was doing on those other things. I think I've had a little bit more stuff thrown at me. Frank Vogel's been tremendous with our coaching staff and giving us the latitude to coach. But I'm a guy that's I'm in the moment. I'm not looking ahead. I'm not looking at being a lead assistant. I'm not looking at being a head coach. I've always been a guy that just tackles whatever role I'm in. I'm tackling that role. I'm going to do that job, because I feel like if you're a video coordinator and you're looking at trying to be a player development coach, then you're not going to be the best video coordinator you can be. So I've always been in the moment. Whatever my job is, let me master that. Let me take on whatever responsibilities they give me. And then whatever else comes, Jay, I'll be prepared for it. So I'm not hunting any jobs or any positions. I'm very, very happy with what I'm doing, because I feel like I'm just getting better every day.
Beautiful. One I want to throw at you, mate, is there anything, I know the season stopped short, but was there any change in trends that you were noticing right off the bat from an NBA point of view?
As far as play style?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. The league is always changing. One, I think the players every year they change, and I'm talking about size, the athletes, the type of players. The game has just gotten so much bigger, but as it's gotten bigger, players are more perimeter skilled, and so the game is almost obsolete without a five-man. I think we are the biggest team in the NBA with JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis. We still have three legit centers that we play, and so that's not traditional in the league. And I think what the league has really done, after people saw us last year in the finals do a lot of different things, we played a box of one, triangle two, we played zone. You see a lot more teams now in the league are trying different things based on that. So I think the NBA has always been kind of known as what they call a copycat league. You know, you see a coach, he has some success, and then the next year you're going to see everybody else doing it. And so I think the biggest trend that you see in the league is small ball. This year has really become like prevalent. Most teams don't even have a 5 on the floor at the end of the game. You know, you see a lot of teams, they're playing with 4s, or they're playing with 3s, you know, and everybody's really small. Everybody's 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" across the board, no 5s on the floor, and they play small ball and try to spread you out. You know, that's something that's kind of taking a new trend. And then again, a lot more teams. Last season, I think maybe 4 or 5 teams played zone in the NBA. This year, every team is playing zone in the NBA. So that's a big swing in you know, some of the trends that are taking place.
Beautiful. We might wrap it up there, Phil. There's a couple of questions that we did hit earlier on, so I encourage everyone to go back and watch the film. But mate, we appreciate your time. We want you to stay safe over there, and hopefully the season gets up and running. Although I like to hear that you're enjoying some downtime, because you've definitely earned that over the years.
This is a tremendous pleasure. It's a tremendous pleasure for me to just be on with all the different faces, and you know, get to see all these different names, and hopefully I've been able to help, you know, coaches with some things and understanding. And look, if we need to come back and do it again, Jay, let's come back and do it again, where we can continue to help coaches grow.
Beautiful. I'll make sure Kylie from the office will get everyone the info about the app. It sounds like it's definitely a tool that many can use, especially in this time and environment. Yeah. Before we wrap up, I want to thank our sponsors again: Dream Street Lending, Tide Power, SodaStream, Buller, Trojan Tools, Rolled, Harcourts, Subaru, the TAC, Moose Toys, Chemist Warehouse, Wiz, and Sporting Globe. Thanks again for all the support. We'll be back here next week. I think Dino and I are back on. We're going to talk about developing athletes or coaching athletes to win, and how we can actually achieve both. So, or something like that. We'll get the title right and get it out there. But thanks again, Phil. Stay safe, mate. Good to see your face, and all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody stay safe. Enjoy your time with your families. Dino and Vince, you guys owe me a nice bottle of wine, man. Nice. Everybody be well, be safe, man. Thank you guys all for your time tonight.
Take care, guys.